Peace, peace.
Peace, fam. I'm Supreme I, Nefer Amun, and this is my divine wife right here.
Akila.
And we're making this video talking about winter solstice and Christmas and the tradition behind it and the history and how it relates to us. So let me first start out by saying that the solstices and the equinoxes are the most holiest times on the planet of the year. And this is has everything to do with the fact that religion is entirely astrological and primarily physiological, being that you have the divine spark, which is God or God consciousness within inside of you, within inside of your pineal gland. Matter of fact, it's radiating out from you, from every atom of your body. Um, so basically, what we're talking about today is why we celebrate winter solstice or observe these days. What's the importance of it? Like we were just saying, the equinoxes and the solstices are the most holiest days on the year. And the reason for that is because our ancient developed ancestors, looking into their precious insight, have shown us that each season, um, which is marked by a cardinal point on the precession of the equinox or the zodiacal wheel, shows a different quality of that season. And so when we're talking about the four holiest days of the year, the summer solstice, winter equinox, uh, summer solstice, winter solstice, spring equinox, fall equinox, what we're talking about literally is the process of birth, life, death, and rebirth. And also, as it reflects in man and woman, that is infancy, uh, adolescence, adulthood, and seniority, or death, which reflect the four qualities of these times. So, rightly so, in the winter solstice, we see along the ecliptic, which is the sun's orbit, that the sun actually stays in the Southern Cross constellation for a period of 3 days. It stays in this period for 3 days at rest. And when the ancients used to view this from wherever they were at, Stonehenge, ancient Kim, um, Mexico, and the Pyramid of the Sun, what they witnessed during the winter solstice is that the sun, gradually throughout the whole year, looking at from the same place, is that the sun appeared to be getting smaller and smaller and actually decreasing in its potency and its energy. So what this corresponds to is basically the death of the sun. And so I just said before that the sun stays in the Southern Cross or the Southern Crooks constellation for about 3 days, or seemingly, and then it begins its ascent towards the spring equinox. Now, at this point in time, during winter solstice, is marked by the characteristics of the days being shorter, and so symbolically, this correlates to us because this is a point in time that basically signifies and represents hours and the times of our darkest moments. But also, just like the sun coming out of the southern constellation, it shows that we are actually able to overcome these different type of obstacles. Now, our ancestors were masters in fractal reality, which means that they were able to codify and see the universe flow within every single thing. And also honoring and worshiping and revering these different dates ties you into, basically, it helps one harmonize their thoughts, deeds, and actions in words. Um, and so what we're talking about is having your human consciousness in conformity with planetary will. So once you're able to see the rhythm of nature and the different qualities that nature possess, and you're able to see that within inside of yourself, you're now in sync or in tune or in movement. So once again, just to cap it up, winter solstice is a period of time which the sun is at its lowest point along the ecliptic or its orbital plane. Um, and our our ancient developed ancestors looked at this time as a time to honor the divine feminine energy and also honor the solar aspect outside and within inside of themselves. Um, and this was an auspicious time to up your spiritual practices such as fasting, meditation, yoga, samatawi, whatever, you know. Um, and so yeah, that's a little bit of my piece on the winter solstice.
And just to add to that, to speak about the holidays that we have manifested now in European culture, like Christmas, it has a lot of that symbology behind it. Um, it contains a lot of science, which speaks on a lot of the rituals that were done by our ancestors in the past. So just to take a look into Christmas, let's just look at the word Christmas. You have Christ and Mass, and Christ is known to be the enlightened one or the anointed one. And in Spanish or Latin, Mas meaning more. So essentially, Christmas is representing more enlightenment, more anointing. And if you look at some of the symbols that are used in Christmas, for example, the Christmas tree. A Christmas tree, an evergreen tree, has what some people refer to as the fingerprint of God, Fibonacci's golden ratio. It swirls up like this in a 9 pattern. And if you know anything about numbers, you know 9 represents the all, completion, God, the highest frequency of ether. And ether is just your ability to communicate with the outer universe and your attunement. And so that right there should show you that a Christmas tree can be a powerhouse. It also is in the shape of a pyramid. And if you know anything about sacred geometry, you know that pyramids, anything put in or under a pyramid, basically can be manifested. It has the 3 points, like the Holy Trinity, masculine, feminine, and creation. And the 4 points under it, which represent 4 representing foundation. And so with the Christmas tree in your house, you have a representation of Fibonacci's golden ratio and a pyramid. And then when you start to decorate it, it becomes sort of like a shrine. And our ancestors communicated with their ancestors through shrines. It just basically becomes like a vortex of connecting and communicating with the spiritual realm. So when people do put up a Christmas tree, that becomes a sacred space. And that kind of creates that cheery and loving mood that a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people feel when Christmas comes. And if you ever notice, Christmas trees are decorated at the top with a golden star. And so if you're thinking of it as I was saying earlier, how it spirals upwards, it's just like Kundalini coiled at the bottom of the spine, coming up towards and reaching out to the crown, out of the crown into into the cosmos, so that you can communicate with the outer universe. And that is that enlightenment at the top. That star represents that enlightenment. See what else is there. Or how Santa comes and brings you gifts. And Santa representing your pineal gland. Once your pineal gland is decalcified, and you'll begin to have an awareness that brings you spiritual gifts. So the gifts that are given on Christmas is like a symbolic representation of those spiritual elevating gifts that you receive from the activation of your pineal gland. Um, what else is there?
The just to build on what you were saying, like the gifts are the gifts of your pineal gland, and so presence is really speaking of the divine presence that we all have within inside of us. Once we actualize, once we actualize our Christmas tree, or our Heru, or our Christ, or our Santa, you know, like she was saying, and also because Christmas has such an extensive history. There's other things involved in it, like the mistletoe, and because just like how we were saying that it's amalgamation of different cultures, kind of. I've heard that the mistletoe comes from the ancient Druids, which is ancient Celtic or Irish people, and they use a lot of mistletoe within inside of their rituals. So this is something that's been adopted and taken on, I believe, by Romans at a certain point in time, and then that became combined with their Saturnalia festival, which is also corresponding to the Christmas festival. And just like how we were saying, all of these holy days are astrological and physiological. The festival, which is the festival tied to Christmas, and how some will say Christmas has pagan origins. People will bring up the Saturnalia festival, and the Saturnalia festival was basically a time in Rome where they celebrated. They basically got drunk as shit, high as shit. They used to have sex outside and shit, and they used to just be singing outside naked. That's basically where Christmas caroling comes from. And so they seen that all their crops basically withered away and died, and so they used to praise and do human sacrifices also to the god Saturnalia. And also, we know that occult speaking and esoterically speaking, that Saturn, the deity Saturn, has a lot to do and everything to do with the planet Satan. And also, astrologically, Saturn is the lawgiver. It deals with restrictiveness, discipline. Um, hence the word Saturday. Hence the word Sunday, because if you get past Saturn, which is the lawgiver, you step into the sun. You step into the righteous light. And so that's basically what the winter solstice is coming in and speaking to us about. Going through those darkest moments and arriving gloriously, and understanding our true destiny and role as heroes and heroines and sheroes, you know. And then, oh yeah, one more thing. I seen somebody was talking about a Bible verse to in Jeremiah 10:3, I believe, or Jeremiah 3:10, talking about cut a tree down and adorn it with silver and gold. And we know that silver and gold is nothing other than the masculine and feminine principle within inside of man. So anything in a myth, which is the Bible, speaking of two, is always going to be talking about those two forces within inside of you, the internal kingdom and the eternal queendom, and how you have to reign supreme over both of these polarities and be centered in the middle, dealing in complete balance.
Peace on that, King. And however you choose to celebrate the winter solstice, keep in mind its spiritual meaning. That's what's most important. Enjoy your family, love yourself, know thyself, and have a wonderful day.
Peace. Salam.